isn't a temple, it's a home you live in forever. So take care of it. These are the very famous words of Colin Wright. Hello everyone, and it's time to introduce our next guest on Mobai Hirey. She is a naturopath, a nutritionist, and a qualified dietitian. She started her career in 1990 and has completed 30 years in this June 2020. Her client list comprises of well-renowned film stars, corporates, politicians, and a whole lot of people. Her work has taken her to various cities across the globe. She has even cured patients in coma and brought them back to life. Her story might not be a rags to riches one exactly, but she has worked hard to achieve that success. Besides her hard work and dedication, she owes her success big time to the grace of God and to the undying support of her husband and her two lovely daughters. She has also been awarded by MGP as the Entrepreneur of the Year in 2018. Ladies and gentlemen, we are proud to introduce our next guest, the First Lady on Mobai Hirey, Miss Charmaine D'Souza. Charmaine, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Ashwin, for those kind words. And today we're going to speak about my journey
Absolutely.
as an entrepreneur. So like you said, I've been here 30 years and I started this journey in June of 1990. So last month, or June of 2020, I completed 30 years of this journey. And in these 3 decades, there's a lot I have learned and a lot I would like to share with our viewers today. And let's start from the beginning. I practiced dietetics in a number of hospitals in Mumbai, and I also taught the subject. I taught nutrition at Sapphire College. I taught nutrition at Jaslow College of Nursing, along with simultaneously practicing. And over these past 30 years, I have seen clients with kidney issues, with diabetes, with young children with cardiac issues, etc. But the premise has always been good health. So during my second internship, which I did at Raheja Hospital, and you must be knowing it's a diabetic hospital, or at least at that time, 30 years ago, it was purely a diabetic hospital in Mahim. And what I realized is that as young interns, we were barely 20 and 21, 22 or whatever, and we'd sit in the OPD and diligently write out basic diets, that typical thing of 30 grams of rice and 20 grams of protein and whatever else, and then have patients just look at us, and these are seriously ill patients who would look at us and nod their heads, and in the OPD you write out, because the OPD was on the ground floor, you write out the plan, at the back of your mind that they are not going to follow this strictly. And then what they would do is that they would go across, and because Raheja Hospital had the OPD on the ground floor, we could have direct view of the gate, the entrance gate. And right across from the entrance gate would be the bhel wala and the kulfi wala and whatever. And these people would have their files, their doctor's report, their dietitian's file and everything under their arm, and they would rush across to the bhel wala and eat as much as possible. And we would laugh in the OPD because we knew that when they went home, the wife or the daughter or the mother would say, okay, now you have to follow this 1800 calorie or a 1200 calorie diet. So we were very young at that time, and we'd take bets. We'd actually say, you know what, Geeta, he is coming back into the hospital and he's going to get admitted by Monday because the sugars are already 320. Now the way he's eating, they're going to go up. They're going to go up to 400 plus, and he's going to be really serious. And for most of the time, unfortunately, when you look back, you really feel sad that most of the time, unfortunately, people would come back with this whole thing of being extremely, extremely ill. But I would keep arguing with the head of department that, ma'am, why are we planning diets when we know that the client is not going to, or the patient is not going to follow that strict, restrictive plan? And she would say that, no, you have to follow the system. You have to, because tomorrow if you are absent, the other dietitian who is going in will write the same thing out as you are trained. And that's when I realized that I have to do something different. I can't go by just the calories and go by a textbook 1800, 1600, 2000 calorie diet, because not everyone can follow a restrictive plan. Imagine if I told you now from tomorrow onwards you cannot eat non-veg, you have to only eat dal and roti. 2 days, 3 days you will eat that dal and roti, and the 4th day you will say, where is that fish curry and where is that fried cutlets?
Yeah, we are all foodies.
That's exactly what happens, right? So subsequently, and I had already done my basics. I had done my graduation in dietetics. I done my graduation in life sciences and genetics. Went on to do a post-graduation in dietetics. But after this and after doing my internship, I realized that I have to study something different in order to bring in a component which would add value to their plan and at the same time see that they adhere to the plan. So I went and studied naturopathy, and I came back and started practicing using what I had learned in genetics, in life sciences, in dietetics, in nutrition and food science, but also added the component of naturopathy. So what exactly is naturopathy? And if you've been to any of these homestays which offer kind of a naturopathic environment, if you've been to a nursing home or whatever which allows you to have a naturopathic cleansing, etc., it's a whole system of detoxes and cleansers, etc. Now coming back and try to put that into mainstream practice for clients who have a 9-to-5 job, there's no way in which they can keep on sipping those kadhas and those blends, etc. all through the day. Imagine setting out to work and then all you're doing is carrying bottles and shakes with you, right? So what I did then is used all the knowledge that I had and started working on a series of spice mixes, which I knew, one, that the ingredients would be all available in the patient's kitchen. So everything from kadi patta to methi to jeera and to saunf and whatever else, and use that as their specific cleanser.
Okay.
So their specific therapeutic blend, which meant that they could get it made in their own kitchen. They could have it after breakfast, lunch and dinner to help with whatever they've eaten, and at the same time they would always be able to go back to. So if there is a series, for example, the patient is a diabetic with high blood pressure, so I'd have ingredients added accordingly. I only share the recipe. I do not make the product. So they always know what is inside their spice mix because they made it on their own. And 6 years down the line, 6 months down the line, if they want to repeat the thing, they only need to open up the file and see that, okay, on the first plan I use jeera, methi, khaskhas and whatever. So that is exactly how we formulate these different spice mixes. Okay, so subsequently, now I got into the teaching environment. I also started my private practice and then set up a consultancy firm, a company which is a private limited company with my husband. And with God's grace, it's been so many years and there's been absolutely no looking back. And for that, I'm extremely grateful to the support that I've received from family, from my husband and children, and most importantly, the support and the blessings, I would say, that we get from God.
Absolutely.
Years later, I've been on this thing that, I've been innovative and I've done this and I've done that. But years later, I met a cousin. And you know how it is with relatives, sometimes they live abroad, they live in other countries and whatever, and then you lose touch with them. Now, Facebook and social media, in terms of Instagram, you keep in touch with everybody.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about so many years ago, cousin had moved across
there was nothing at that point of time.
That's exactly. Yeah. So she had moved across to the Gulf and she was a nurse there and whatever. And years later, she read one of my books and met up with me, and you know what she told me? She told me something that even today gives me goosebumps, because she said, we share a grandfather in terms of her maternal grandfather, which is the same as my paternal grandfather.
Okay.
My dad's father, her mom's father. So every summer vacation, she was sent from Dabul to Mahim to live in the grandparents' home. And my grandfather was a naturopath. Now, I've never seen him because he passed away many years before, when my father was very young. But she says that she remembers going, probably, now she remembers it as a forest. She was a young girl herself, but it was now, in retrospect, when you look back, it was probably the Mahim Nature Park.
Yeah.
So she would walk with grandfather. They lived very close to St. Michael's Church. So she would walk with him every morning, carrying his bag, and go across to the forest there. He would pick all the herbs, and then there would be a long line outside the house of patients whom he had to dispense those herbs. So she says he had this wooden box, he had a scale, and as he examined each patient, he would then decide which herbs and which combinations, and so he would make those little blends and he would dispense it off. So, when I was feeling extremely happy that, I have innovated and I have done something and whatever, she said something to me which, makes me smile even now. She said, it's all in your genes. So, it's something that
could be,
came
absolutely.
That's exactly.
Okay, so Charmaine, who are the people who have influenced you or motivated you, and why naturopathy and why dietitian and why, is there anyone special or that you looked up to, or you said, let me just do it my way, kind of a thing?
Okay. You said why naturopathy and why nutritionist, and why did you get into this field? Ashwin, growing up, unfortunately my dad had diabetes, and he tried every sort of allopathic medication to bring his sugars under control. And I'm talking about when we were 9 and 10 years and 11 years and whatever. And then I would see him go to Ayurvedic doctors. He would get these powders home and get us as kids on a Saturday or whatever to fill in gel capsules all his medication, to put those powders in because they were extremely bitter. And we would put it in, and then he would take these every day. Now, I'm not here to say it because it's long past, it's been many years, but I'm not here to say that is the reason why he ultimately developed cancer, or that is the reason why some of his organs failed or whatever else. But he was searching for a cure. He was searching for something that would help him to stabilize his blood sugars. So probably, and then when he passed away, and knowing that I could not do anything to help him, but I was in school and in college or whatever, so I decided that if I'm doing something, I could have gotten, after my 12th standard, I could have gotten to a medical college, not in Mumbai of course, because I didn't score as high to get a place or a seat in the Mumbai medical colleges, but outside of Mumbai I could have in those years. And I chose to instead continue to do genetics and life sciences, and then gradually carve my way into wanting to do nutrition and dietetics. And with the focus that I knew that I had to do something in the field of food to help people with ailments where there wasn't a cure. Unfortunately, even till today, there is no cure for diabetes. So but you can control it.
Yeah.
And food is one thing. Food plays a major role. Your stress also plays a major role in how you can control diseases, etc. But I knew that I wanted to do something in the field which could help, which was like a paramedical course which could help a lot of people, and without too much of a focus on being very restrictive, etc. And that is the reason why I chose dietetics. Now I've explained exactly why I went into naturopathy, because I wanted an add-on, a typical thing of wanting to be able to help people, not just by doing restrictive diets with them, but also giving them something which would act like, not like a magic pill, but something which would support them in times when they couldn't adhere to a diet. Say it's Christmas and there's been a lot of alcohol, and there has been the non-vegetarian food and fried food and whatever else, but knowing that they can go back into their rooms and eat 3 teaspoons of the mix instead of 2 teaspoons will at least prevent that blood sugar spike the very next day.
Okay.
I always tell my patients that this is not some kind of magic powder that every meal can be batata vadas and whatever and your sugars will stay normal. What I do tell them is that for the few times in the week, in the month or whatever, when you are tempted to eat something which is very much out of your diet plan, then if you have an additional teaspoon of this will prevent that major change in the blood sugar levels or the blood pressure levels, etc. So that is exactly how I kind of found my way into this dietetic space. Now in terms, when you spoke about, I'm glad you asked me about mentors and influencers and all, because I have a lot to say in that space too. But going back to the start of my career, I had a very nice and a very, very strict head of department. So in fact, she was my examiner at Nirmala Niketan. She came to do our diet planning exam. And I was one of those who had picked up a chit which said diabetic diet. And all my classmates were laughing because she's the strictest one, and she's come to correct our papers, and I have got diabetes, so she is going to grill me. Luckily for me, I thought I had gone totally wrong or whatever, but luckily for me, she sat down and she looked at it, and she went back to the staff and she said, you know what, I want that girl and another classmate of mine, I want them to do a double internship. So all those many years ago, again my classmates started laughing because they would go to KEM hospital, not do too much out there, fool around, whatever, carry their mills and bones in their files and read around in some quiet corner, while the two of us would be slogging at Raheja Hospital. So we went there, and then she offered me a position of junior dietitian subsequent to my internship, and she was always very focused. Now, years later, we still meet and we still talk to each other and all that, and she says, I saw that spark in you. Now, I'm glad she saw that spark, otherwise I might have also been kind of, wandering and changing my field. A lot of my classmates have moved away from this space. So, she was there to kind of instill values, and in terms of, motivating and influencing me to do what I wanted and to look at research, because that's a very, very important part of what we do.
Yeah.
So research is extremely important. And when I decided to go and teach at Sapphire College, nutrition and food science, she said, Charmaine, even though you're teaching, I don't want you to miss out on that one-to-one client experience. So I want you to be there, and I want you to be consulting, etc. And she organized for me to, after college hours, to go and in Chem's Corner to be with a doctor, diabetologist, and plan out the diets for all his clients. So that was like the motivating and the influencing and the person who supported and things like that. Incidentally, when I wrote my first book called Kitchen Clinic, she was the one who came along with Kiran Kher and launched the book. So she, like all the way from the town, she came into the suburbs to launch the book, and she has been my major supporter. Now, there is something that I want to state here in terms of, because everyone talks about motivators, social media influencers, about people who support, etc. And any enterprising, any aspiring entrepreneur will always look for someone, they need someone to look up to, someone whom they are inspired by, someone whose achievements will motivate them to take that step and go ahead. And that is extremely, extremely important in a number of cases. But what if you're doing something which others are also doing? But what if you want to be that trailblazer? What if you want to do things differently? What if you don't want to follow in the footsteps? Then whom do you look up to? Then where do you find that inspiration? Yeah. Then where do you find the motivation to do the things that you set out to do? So this part I need to make clear, because there are going to be people from all across the globe who are going to hear this from me now and think, oh my God, she's so full of herself, or she's being so pompous. But what I'm going to say next is without an iota of pomposity. With the grace of God, I have been my own taskmaster. I've been pushing myself all these years. I've been my own competition. So, okay, we did do this year, and this is how the next 3 months have to pan out, and this is how the next 6 months have to pan out. So, I've been my own competition, and most importantly, I've been my own motivator. Because what I do is very different, like I said before, is very different from what others are doing in terms of the field of nutrition, of taking a case study and writing out a diet plan and helping the client to just live within that diet sheet, a very restrictive pattern. Yeah. So what I do is I put out on paper a spice mix recipe. Now a lot of people say, oh my God, then you're never going to, you're not going to be a business person. And I always tell them that in the healthcare field, it's extremely difficult to be looking at profits and looking at profit margins and increasing your
clients. That's how it is being looked at right now.
Unless you want to be a business person, and if you want to empathize with people, if you want to heal them, or if you want to set out to heal them, then how do you kind of, draw that line between empathizing and sympathizing with people, and at the same time looking at how you have to pay your staff salaries and look at, in terms of how you have to show profits, your CAs constantly like, ma'am, what is happening and whatever else, right? So, like I said, I've been my own motivator simply because there is no one else in the field who is actually writing out. A lot of people sell products. A lot of nutritionists sell protein dabbas, or they'll sell some immunity mix, etc. without giving the recipe. So with most people, this whole thing of if I get onto a plan, I have to buy a product, because without that product or without that detox water or whatever, my plan is not going to, I'm not going to be successful in my efforts to achieve good health. But what I do is I write out that spice mix recipe, and in all these years, I can say with positivity and with firmness, nobody will be able to find two spice mixes that are similar, simply because each patient's current medical status is taken into consideration when we plan, and also their medical history, their previous medical history, as well as their family medical history. So I'll give you a simple example. Somebody is diabetic and they have blood pressure. The cousin sister-in-law is also diabetic and with high BP.
Okay.
And then one person comes to me and we sort out and we put that diabetic plan in place with high things to or substances to bring down the blood pressure. And he has done very well. Now he feels so happy, he passes on the recipe to his relative. And some days later, I will get a call from the person and says, you know what, it didn't work for my cousin. Now it didn't work for your cousin simply because, or your relative simply because, she probably is perimenopausal and she has depression and maybe migraine along with that. So those are the things that we take into consideration. So it's tailor-made to suit each one's specification.
Everyone's biological systems are very different from
that. Is exactly.
Yeah.
So that is the reason why, although it's an open process and we share the recipe, these past years people are still coming to us because they've realized that they cannot take it and publish it and print it or whatever, and everybody in the world can have this one spice mix for a diabetic plan. So like I said, to motivate and whatever else, I have had to sit and actually, there are times when there are these ups and downs. There are times when you feel like too bogged down with life in general. Like look at the pandemic right now and look at what's happening, and we're all working from home and all that. So over the years, despite all these ups and downs, what I've been able to do is stay consistent, stay positive. Not very easy, I must tell you, but you have to get out there and stay positive and know that things will change. This will not last. This pandemic period will not last forever.
Absolutely.
You have to be positive. You have to be astute. You have to be oblivious to all those people who are making those negative comments. Okay, all those naysayers, people who feel like, oh, you're not going to be successful. But at the same time, you have to value people who are giving you some form of criticism, because only from there will you learn how to better yourself. So that's very essential. So while not having, not being too clued in about all those people who are saying negative things about you, you still look back. And when you're doing your report writing, etc., and when at the end of the month, end of the week, end of the year, whatever, you're looking back at all the cases and how you can expand and how you can do things differently, you take into consideration their negative comments and
use them,
and then of course move forward. Now why do I say this? I say this in order to drive home a point today to all those who are wanting to start a career, to everyone who is wanting to venture out into a business or an entrepreneurship, however big or small. Do not wait to find someone to emulate. Do not wait to find someone who is going to motivate you all the time, someone who is going to constantly be by your side, because it does not work like that. In the real world, it does not work like that. Your motivator, your influencer, your supporter will be there for a short period of time. But if you truly believe in yourself, if you believe in your product, if you believe in the service that you are providing, then irrespective of the support that you have or don't have or whatever, you will still be able to progress.
Great.
Once you've chosen your particular field of expertise and you want to emulate someone who's already in that field, my suggestion would be, don't look to constantly emulate that person, because you do not know that person's story. You probably have no idea of what it took that person to come up in life.
So Charmaine, what are your future plans, and is there something specific that this is a community show
And is there anything that you're doing specifically that you would like to do, or you're doing for the community per se, and what are your future plans as far as your field is concerned?
My company is called Good Health Always, and at GHA, over the years, me and my husband have been mentoring a number of young people who are motivated enough, people who want to do something as a startup in the health food space. So for example, women who want to start because they have young children and they want to start from home rather than invest a lot of money into a business space, etc. We've been helping them out to even find clients and source out good quality ingredients, etc. And they've been doing things like breakfast mixes, granolas. They've been doing healthy bowls, healthy smoothies, etc. Then we also have mentored young girls who started this whole thing of seed mixes. Everything from your pumpkin seeds and sesame seeds, etc. are good for health. And they form a nice mid-evening or a mid-meal snack and provide you with the calcium, magnesium, etc. So we brainstormed with a couple of these young girls, and what we did is, you have the chaat masalas and you have the peri-peri and you have the salsa mix and all that. So we thought, why not we incorporate our East Indian bottle masala? And that's exactly what we did.
The very famous East Indian bottle masala.
East Indian bottle masala. So we did that, and we kind of are trying to showcase, how our ethnic ingredients are something that can also come into a fancy smoothie or a fancy seed mix, etc. And that is what we have done. So now during the lockdown period, my daughters and myself put down a cookbook, and it's called the Good Health Always cookbook, and the focus is of course on health, and we try to incorporate, the most important thing is edible waste. So everything from your peel to your skins, etc. we try to use dishes, to make dishes with the minimal wastage. Okay, trying to incorporate minimal wastage. And we for example used the East Indian bottle masala without sharing the recipe, of course, because that is like a major secret in most East Indian homes, right? So we've done that, and we've put down recipes which use our East Indian bottle masala. We have atola, which is very healthy, right? So we have the atola with a little twist in the recipe book. Then your chitaps, I've got moong dal in them and whatever. I'm not going to divulge too many secrets or whatever. It's going to come out shortly. Unfortunately, because of the lockdown, it's been a little delayed. But it's going to come out, and it's going to make really good reading. But more important, more than the good reading, it's also going to help young people or even older people to bring out healthier dishes and put them out. So we've used more of baking techniques, dry roasting techniques, etc. So to put that element of health in. So that's what, that's coming up in the future. Then the girls, both Shaleen and Savleen, have a company called Sasha's Theraspice. And what they do is they do an entire series of compresses, compresses for healing. And they have a blend of therapeutic ingredients, herbs and spices for the different parts of the body. So recently they brought out an ankle wrap, they have shoulder wraps, they have things for the back, things for pillows, etc. for everything from a frozen shoulder to products which will then help, knee wraps, etc. which will then help a person sitting at home, just heating it up in the microwave or heating it on the tawa, or cooling it in the freezer, and accordingly using it. They have an eye mask for Shavasana, etc. So they have their own company in place. They also do a series of herbs for hair, and they do artisanal soaps, again using therapeutic blends like lavender, etc., which have a therapy behind, just putting the ingredients into a product. Then they're also trained yoga therapists, and their future plan is to bring in all their brands under this whole umbrella of Good Health Always. So the future looks like they'll be joining
So we're going to have a lot of wraps and a lot of yoga and
true.
all these things put together.
That's true. And while doing the things that they want to do, they also know that they have kind of their father and mother to help them out with the other things that they want to come up with. So they have young girls with a lot of ideas, etc. And that's what they want to do. Now coming back to in the future, what we want to do for the community, and we've spoken to Gleason time and again, and we're looking to what I'm seeing in terms of the company. We want to bridge a gap between all those angel investors in our community and all those young, deserving, enthusiastic people who want to start a business. People who have the knowledge, have the know-how, have that zest, etc. to start a business, but unfortunately don't have the means currently. Right?
Yeah.
So rather than them going into getting expensive bank loans, etc., if there is a way we can bridge and build that connect.
Super.
So that is something that we are definitely looking at, because all these young people are full of innovative ideas. So they're full of kind of new things that they want to do.
Yes, there's a lot of change in our East Indians. They're no more the Khaun Piun Maje Mani.
That's exactly. But
Okay.
also we have to tweak it a little bit, because I've seen like in the past 30 years working with other people from other communities, is that there is a lot of support from the community itself.
Yeah.
So now we have to get out there and prove to the other communities that we are also supporting our
Absolutely.
people and we are pushing them ahead, and irrespective of whatever hindrances may come, we are still waiting to support these kids.
Great. So Charmaine, what you're doing is absolutely great, and we want you to pass this on to the community, the generation, and we wanted to start a mentorship program which we plan to do in the future through MGP for the community. So what would you like to be part of it? And I'm sure if you can just help us with something like that.
Definitely, Ashwin. So Gleason has already approached me, and my first thing is health, right? So in terms of keeping people healthy, because
Very
at the
important.
end of the day, health is wealth.
Yeah.
So he's approached me to do a little bit of, in terms of webinars, to educate our people as to how they can, through their kitchen, use simple things like dhania seeds, for example, coriander seeds in a bottle of water, and sip that water through the day just to keep their BP stabilized. So if we can do something like that and get them to be healthy, and know that there are certain ingredients from their kitchen which they can use as their medicine, so it will just help them going a long way to bettering their health. So I'm open to doing all those seminars.
Okay.
I've told Gleason that in the past. And as far as mentorship goes, in terms of we've already started doing it. So we are already doing it with smaller groups of people. But if you want it on a larger platform, definitely we'll come out there and share our experience. My husband's been in the oil field for so many years. He used to be in the oil field at least. And then he's moved on to investing in restaurants pan-India. So from that experience, from the oil field experience, or that typical thing of investing and how the market is changing, and of course the pandemic has brought out a complete new scenario. So we're looking at in terms of ghost kitchens, in terms of delivery services, etc. And Sabo has a lot of experience out there. So definitely, I mean, whenever the community requires anything, we're going to be there. So if you're starting this entire mentorship program, we'd like to be counted in to help you.
Thank you so much, and we'll be most happy to get you on board over there.
Definitely, thank you.
Charmaine, as you know that this is an initiative started by MGP, the Mobai Gaothan Panchayat. The Gaothan Panchayat was started 10 years ago to protect our Gaothans and to protect our community, so that there was someone to go back to a body.
Yes.
And so what are your thoughts on MGP?
Okay. So I'm not saying this because MGP awarded me with
you were also awarded as the Entrepreneur of the Year
in 2017, but over the years what I've seen is that the entire team, whether it's a small regular worker who is just putting in assignments, etc., or it is the key people in MGP who make those big decisions. So that entire team of MGP, all the members, are doing such exemplary work in the field of protecting our land. Okay, they're also doing so much for our people to motivate our people, to get them to come out there and to do something in however big or small way. They're always there to support them. People who are scared to start something or whatever, and MGP is there to say, go ahead.
Yes, MGP per se is like now, since we can't say thanks to the pandemic, but it was good for us that we have gone online, and we were always doing stuff on ground. So now we are reaching out to so many people, and you have organizations, East Indians across the globe who are in touch with us, and for whatever we do, they follow all the programs. It's not just having fun through singing competitions. There's a lot of things that we've done, the rosaries, and then
what about to help the poor?
Absolutely,
right?
They're distributing ration kits and all, which is being done right now.
Of course, that's true. So they've done a lot to also bring recognition to the community. Years ago, when you said you were an East Indian, people would actually ask East India Company.
who's an East Indian?
So that means you're a Bengali and whatever else. But now when you say East Indian, immediately people, associate so many things, and in terms of land and in terms of knowing that East Indians, landowners, original inhabitants of Mumbai, etc.
In fact, one of our, the last guest, Mr. Agnello Rajesh, he also pointed out, when we talk about East Indians, we are a very small minority, minuscule. And he says, who knows about an East Indian? So if we do something on to find out who's an East Indian, see, he's saying, I will support you to the core.
Of course, that's very important. To take a community who has all these years been probably suppressed, not really spoken about and whatever, and then to bring them into the limelight, to have representation in the government. So a lot of things have been done because of MGP for the community, not only in Mumbai, in Maharashtra, for those seeking recognition pan-India, East Indians who live in other states and also abroad, right?
Abroad,
so globally we are helping. Yes. We are looking at that community.
So we have some East Indians in New Zealand, Australia and Canada, and all these people getting together through.
So they're all coming together, and that whole kinship, that whole thing of, we as a community, that whole thing of being together all the time is something that is all primarily because of all the efforts of each and every team member of the MGP. And all their endeavors, I just constantly feel that all their endeavors will go a long way into making our community members an absolute force to reckon with, So now we look at a business community and we say, wow, because of their community, whatever else. Soon, very soon, it will be our community will also be standing out there and being matching people step by step.
So Charmaine, this chat show is all about the community.
Yes.
Yeah. And so what is your message that you would like to give out to our community? As you see, as you said, there is a lot of youth now, who's looking at things differently. They are not the typical East Indian type, where you would eat, drink and enjoy and kind of do your thing.
Okay.
So what would you like to, tell them?
Ashwin, what happens is that, especially at the time of the pandemic, entrepreneurs worldwide are looking to empower people around the globe to set up businesses, to set up their own ventures, however, like I've said before, however big or small, but they're looking to mentor them and they're looking to help them to climb the kind of ladder of success. There is a lot that is also sparking people's interest in that, personal setup where they want to set up their own business, etc., in that particular startup scene. And especially in the time of this pandemic, people have realized that jobs might be there today and probably might be not there tomorrow.
Very scary situation.
So that's a very, very scary situation. So I'd like to put across what I have experienced over the years, irrespective of whether the pandemic or whatever, but what I have experienced is something that I'd like to share with the community, hopefully to motivate them. And then when we're doing the mentoring on a one-to-one basis, of course, it will be a whole different ballgame. The first thing that I want to tell people is that there will always be non-believers. There will always be people who find fault with you, with your product. They will criticize you, they'll condemn you. Sometimes, it's not only because they don't like you, but they are so much in awe of you, and also that there is a little bit of an element of jealousy, I could have done that or I could have done better or whatever. So they criticize, and that's human nature and that's absolutely fine. But it is always important that you do not let these roadblocks affect you on a general basis. And you can only do this. When can you do this and not allow, whatever people are saying about you, not affect you? You can only do this if you truly believe in yourself. If you believe in the product that you have come up with. If you believe in the services that you are providing to people. If you stand by with conviction, you are fully behind your product and you're fully motivated and you know that your product is the best product, that is when you will never bother about people criticizing and condemning you and whatever. And most importantly, no job is too big or small for you to feel, oh my God, people are going to laugh about it and whatever. As long as you are doing a hard day's work and without harming someone, without kind of, trying to promote a product which is not a good product and kind of stealthily put it in along with a batch of good products, right? So that's when you know that your product is meeting standards, not only Indian standards, meeting international standards. You stand by your product, you are true to yourself and your product, and that is when you will never let all those little roadblocks affect you. Then it is also very, very important to build a type of confidence, right? Most people would look at success, they would look at fame, they would look at money. But I feel that the best thing to have is confidence.
Yep.
And confidence again comes when you know your product is good. Then also very often my friends, my husband, family members will tell me, oh, you were born to be an entrepreneur. Now I know within that I definitely did not have any kind of entrepreneurial streak. In fact, it took me 18 years of teaching to actually decide, okay, I am getting out of that teaching space, because I was so happy in that space, that a regular 9 to 5 job. Then after the 5 p.m. whatever, after classes, I would go and consult my patients or whatever. So I was very happy doing the things that I had to do. But then there came a time when I knew I wanted to do something else, and so I jumped the gun or bit the bullet. But the most important thing is that you have to strive to become the entrepreneur that you are. So you have to work hard to be that entrepreneur. And people who take that plunge finally say that forget about my 9 to 5 job, and you will definitely resonate with what I'm saying out here, is that when people actually do that, it's then that they will execute their ideas and they will learn, and gradually what they will do is they will grow into that entrepreneurship. So that is very important. Don't think that you leave your job and tomorrow you will be an entrepreneur and day after you will be on the cover page of Times magazine, right? Because it's a journey. Long journey with full of all those roadblocks, but you have to be true to yourself. Then entrepreneurship, like we said, is a long journey, but we have to learn to stick by. When we've committed to doing something, that I want to do this and this is how I want to go about it, and I have my backing and whatever, my support, etc. Whether it not only has to be monetary support, but also people who are supporting you and standing by you, that we are there for you or whatever, and to stick with it come what may. But another very important thing, Ashwin, and again you will agree with me, that when you know something is not working, you've tried your level best and it's not working, then don't be foolhardy and continue losing money in that.
Always have a plan.
That is what you need to have, right? A plan B. So it's not working. Okay, that doesn't mean it's the end of the world. Go back to it, analyze why didn't it work, and from that knowledge or from that experience, move into something else which will then definitely work. So another thing, as a community, what we need to do is we need to be very intentional about making our profits. So keep everything clear. Our books should be absolutely clear, and we know that over the years we budget and we kind of put money in certain schemes, etc., so that we are able to hone in on our talents and make those profits. But in the healthcare profession, it's very, very difficult to kind of look at a large profit margin, etc. But more importantly, if you have this typical Goan or East Indian mindset, it is extremely, extremely difficult. Because tomorrow a friend comes up and says, hey, please, can you plan me a diet? And you plan the diet. You've done the work, but they don't ask, what is your fee, Charmaine? And so you keep quiet about it.
Okay.
But if you're one of those people who was very, very professional, you would plan the diet and you would also send the invoice.
Correct.
And so many people do that,
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
But our community, like when I'm saying generally, we are so kind of calm about people not paying us our fee.
Sushega.
Yeah, the typical thing, and where we don't want to hurt people and whatever else. But I always think about the fact that, you can help out, and I definitely even tell people that you help out people who are from marginalized society. People who are poor and cannot afford your fees, and we do that. We constantly do that. We help people who we know cannot afford our fee. But if you have someone who is willing to buy a 3.5 lakh Louboutin bag or whatever, pair of shoes, and then they tell you, I can't pay you your fees, and that's when you have to be professional. You know, that's when you need to. So you need to start looking, otherwise you will end up giving away all the cupcakes that you have baked to all your friends and everybody without getting the profits. And also master that act of being firm, especially when it comes to our facts and knowledge, and stand by those facts. You know it's a scientific fact, stand by it. Don't get swayed by, you know, whatever everybody else is saying, whatever media is saying, etc. And for a woman, you know, I never hear about a work-life balance when it comes to a man. A man will never have to, it's sad, but a man will never have to think that I can't work late today because I have to go pick my kids from school. It is happening with a lot of young fathers nowadays, but generally the onus of homework as well as working from the office falls on the woman. Bringing up the children falls on the woman. Now, I've been blessed. So I've had a husband who would come back from offshore, and if I had to get to Delhi or wherever, he'd say, don't worry, Charmaine, I'll take care of the kids. But not everyone is so blessed, right? Absolutely. I mean, and the whole, it needs a change in mindset.
Needed to change.
That mindset needs to change. So that is very important. That work-life balance will happen if you, and you know that, you know, you will also help your spouse when he can't be around, so you will be shouldering most of the thing. So that's important. Then integrity and hard work has to be the cornerstone of your business. And of course, find time for the vacations, find time for taking care of yourself. And that is also very important, because if you don't invest in yourself, how are you going to be able to run a business or run a company and whatever else? And as long as the East Indian community, we as East Indians keep learning and empowering ourselves, our own circles and other people, there is a chance, there is a strong chance that the future generation of East Indians will take note of this, of what we are doing, support and promote the idea of entrepreneurship among the community, among the things. So you sow the seeds and you help 10 people, and those 10 people help another 100 people. It just means that typical ripple effect, you know, so that also comes into play. And most of the time when I'm asked to speak about entrepreneurship and the role women play or the role people play in general, I like to end with a quote from Swami Vivekananda. And it's a very nice quote. It says, take risks in your life. Go out there and take those risks. If you win, you can lead. You can be an example for so many people. And if you lose, because of your experience, you can guide those people. So take risks in your life. If you win, you can lead. And if you lose, you can guide. And then and only then can you, I strongly believe that then and only then can you stay blessed with good health always.
So Charmaine, thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you on our show, and I'm sure we'll obviously keep in touch with you.
Definitely.
For our future programs, for the mentorship program that you mentioned.
Definitely.
Thank you so much, and God bless.
Thank you very much. Thank you. God bless you all.